He slid half his sandwich across to a stranger who hadn't asked for it. She took it without saying thank you. That was the beginning. What neither of them knew was that one small act of quiet dignity given in the dark, on a cold bench, by a man who had almost nothing would quietly reshape both their lives for the next 10 years. Half a Meal is a story about what happens when kindness refuses to stay small. Hey family, welcome to my story channel. Please subscribe and give this video a like, it truly means the world to us. Don't forget to share it with your friends and loved ones, and turn on post notifications so you never miss a new upload. Thank you so much for the support. Now, sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's story. The bread hit the concrete before Ethan could catch it. He cursed under his breath, picked it up, wiped it on his jeans, and shoved it back into the paper bag. It was 11:47 p.m. He had just finished a 9-hour shift at the warehouse and had exactly one meal left for the day. A leftover sub sandwich he had bought from the corner store with the last folded bill in his pocket. He sat down on the cold bench outside the laundromat. The street was quiet. A broken streetlight flickered overhead. Ethan unwrapped the sandwich slowly, like it was something precious, because right now it was. He took one bite. Then he saw her. She was standing across the street near the closed pharmacy, half in shadow, arms folded tight across her chest. She wasn't moving. She wasn't on her phone. She was just standing there, staring not at the road, not at him but at the bag in his hand. Ethan looked away. She's not your problem, he told himself. You barely have enough for yourself. He took another bite. But when he looked up again, she was still there. Same position, same hollow eyes, and this time she caught him looking and immediately turned her face away, jaw tight, chin up, like she hadn't been staring at all. Ethan put the sandwich down. He thought about his mother, how she used to split a single plate of rice between the two of them and pretend she wasn't hungry. How she'd say, "I ate earlier, baby," and he'd believe it because he needed to. He stood up. He walked across the street, bag in hand. The girl stiffened immediately. "Hey," he said, stopping a few feet away. "I bought too much." She looked at him. Her eyes were sharp, not soft, not grateful. Sharp, like she was deciding whether he was dangerous or stupid. "I don't need your food," she said flatly. "I know," Ethan said. "I'm just saying I can't finish all of this. It'll go to waste." A long silence. The wind moved between them. She looked at the bag, then back at him. "I'm not a charity case," she said. "I never said you were." He held the bag out. "I said I bought too much." She took it. No thank you. No smile. She just took it, turned, and walked away into the dark. Ethan stood there for a moment, hands in his empty pockets, stomach still half hungry. He walked back to the bench and sat down. He didn't regret it. If the story is already speaking to you, hit that subscribe button. You are not going to want to miss what happens next. He didn't expect to see her again. But 3 nights later, she was there, same spot near the pharmacy, same arms folded, same expression that dared the world to say something about it. Ethan had a small container of rice and stew this time, something his coworker's wife had packed for him as a thank you for covering a shift. He walked across without thinking. "I have extra again," he said. She stared at him. "Are you following me? I work nights. I pass this street every day." He shrugged. "You're the one who keeps showing up here." Something flickered in her eyes, not amusement, but close. She took the container without a word. Kept happening. Not every night, but often enough that it became a thing. A routine neither of them had agreed to out loud. Ethan would show up with something small. She would be there or she wouldn't. On the nights she wasn't, he felt an odd absence he refused to name. On the 8th night, she was sitting on the bench when he arrived. That was new. He sat down beside her. Not too close. "You got a name?" he asked. A pause. Then, "Lena." "Ethan." She nodded like she didn't need to know that. He opened his bag, 2 boiled eggs and bread tonight, and held half toward her without drama. She took it. They ate in silence. The kind of silence that isn't uncomfortable, just honest. "Why do you do this?" Lena asked suddenly, eyes forward. "Do what?" "Feed strangers." Ethan chewed slowly. My mom used to say the worst feeling in the world isn't being broke. It's being hungry and invisible at the same time. He paused. I just don't want anybody to feel invisible. Lena didn't respond, but she didn't leave either. They sat there for another 20 minutes, just the two of them and the flickering street light, until she stood up, smoothed her jacket, and walked away. Before she disappeared around the corner, she paused just for a second and said quietly, without turning around, my mother used to say something similar. Then she was gone. Ethan sat alone on the bench, staring at the empty space she had left behind, wondering what kind of hunger she was really carrying. She started talking. Not all at once. Lena wasn't that kind of person. She talked the way a locked door opens. One hinge at a time, reluctant, slow. It started with small things. I hate the cold, she said one night. Then go inside, Ethan said. Inside is worse than the cold. He didn't push. He just nodded and handed her half of his dinner. A week later, she said, I share a room with 4 people. One of them steals food. Ethan said nothing. He just quietly started bringing a little more. Then one night she sat down and didn't eat. Just stared at the ground, fingers laced together, jaw working like she was chewing something she couldn't swallow. Lena, don't. I didn't say anything. You were going to ask if I'm okay. She looked up at him. I'm not okay, but I don't want to talk about it. Okay, he said. They sat. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then it came out, not in a flood, but in pieces, like broken glass being carefully collected. She had been studying business management at a community college. Then her stepfather lost his job. Then her mother got sick. Then the money dried up. Then she dropped out to work, and the job she found paid barely enough to split rent with strangers. She hadn't told anyone back home because the shame of it was heavier than the hunger. People back home think I'm doing well, she said quietly. I post pictures from outside restaurants I've never eaten in. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. That takes more energy than just telling the truth, he finally said. Truth doesn't keep people from pitying you. Her voice was hard. I don't want anyone's pity. There's a difference between pity and concern. She looked at him sharply. Is there? Because every time someone finds out I'm struggling, they either look at me like I'm broken or they use it later. Ethan met her gaze. I'm not going to use it. She searched his face for the lie. Didn't find one. She looked away. I had a full scholarship lined up, she said softly, for a university uptown. I had to let it go. The weight of those words sat heavy between them. Ethan stared at the ground. He thought about all the things unfairness takes from people, not just things but versions of themselves. The person Lena could have been was still alive somewhere inside her, and it was clearly fighting. You're not done, he said. You don't know that. No, he agreed. But I know you're still fighting. You wouldn't be this angry if you'd given up. Lena said nothing, but that night she ate every bite. Ethan noticed it on a Tuesday morning. He was heading to class, cramming a full semester of accounting into early mornings before his warehouse shift, when he saw Lena at the bus stop. She was standing straight, chin up, composed as always. But her left shoe was held together by what looked like a strip of tape around the toe. She caught him looking and shifted her foot behind her. He didn't say anything. He went to class. He came out of class and went to work. He skipped lunch. After his shift, he stopped at the discount store 2 blocks from the laundromat, the one with the bins of clearance shoes near the door. He found a pair of simple black sneakers, barely worn, in what he guessed was her size. $7. He didn't give them to her directly. He wasn't going to do that to her pride. The next evening, he arrived at the bench early and left the shoes in a small bag underneath it, neatly wrapped with no note. He sat down. Lena arrived a few minutes later, stopped when she saw the bag, and looked at him. What's that? Not mine, he said, staring forward. She picked it up slowly, opened it, stared at the shoes for a long time. Ethan. Did you buy me shoes? Somebody left them. I don't know who. She turned to look at him fully. He kept his face straight, but his ears went slightly red. You skipped lunch, she said quietly. He blinked. How do you? Because you always bring 2 containers on Tuesdays. Today you brought one. She tilted her head. And you have that look. What look? The one where you pretend nothing happened but your ears turn red. He exhaled slowly. Caught. They were $7, he said. Ethan, don't make it weird. She looked at the shoes again. He watched her hands, they were trembling, very slightly. I'm not going to say thank you, she whispered. I know. Because if I say thank you, it becomes something. It doesn't have to be anything, he said. You needed shoes. Now you have shoes. A long silence settled. Then Lena sat down beside him, opened the bag he brought, and started eating. She didn't say another word about the shoes. But the next morning, Ethan saw her at the bus stop. She was wearing them. She walked past him without acknowledging him, but her chin was a little higher than usual, her step a little steadier. That was enough. October came and Ethan was drowning. His warehouse hours got cut. His landlord raised the rent. His accounting professor emailed to say he was at risk of failing if he missed one more class, and he'd been missing class because of double shifts he no longer even had. He sat in the break room at 2 a.m. eating a plain bread roll, staring at a blank notebook page, wondering how a person could work this hard and still have nothing to show for it. He thought about quitting school. He opened his phone, looked at his bank balance, $14, and closed it again. He thought about his mother, how she had worked 3 jobs for 8 years so he could have a shot. Her voice in his head. Don't you dare come back without becoming something. He closed the notebook. That week, he stopped bringing food regularly. Not because he didn't want to, but because there was nothing left to bring. He had 1 meal a day and he needed all of it. Lena noticed immediately. You haven't come in 4 days, she said when he finally showed up empty-handed. I know. I'm sorry. I'm not talking about the food. She looked at him carefully. What happened? He almost said nothing. He almost gave her the same wall she used to give him. Instead, he said, I might have to drop school. Her jaw tightened. No. Lena. No. She said again, firmer. You don't get to quit. It's not quitting, it is quitting. You told me I was still fighting. That was easy to say. Her voice was sharp, but underneath it scared. What about you? Are you fighting or not? He didn't answer. She stood up abruptly, dug into her jacket pocket, and pulled out a crumpled $20 bill. Don't, he said immediately. It's not charity, she snapped. You said there's a difference, remember? He looked at the money, then at her face, stubborn, jaw set, eyes fierce. He didn't take it. She threw it in the bag and left before he could argue. He sat there alone. He took out his notebook and wrote something. Small, simple, only a few lines. He folded the paper, walked to her usual spot, and left it tucked under the bench where she'd find it when she came back. Then he went home. The note said, You are stronger than this feels. So am I. Don't let this place be where our story ends. He didn't see her for 2 weeks after that. Then one morning he arrived at the bench and she wasn't there. He waited an hour. Nothing. He came back the next day. And the day after. She was gone. The city had changed. Or maybe Ethan had, and the city just looked different when you weren't sleeping on a thin mattress in a shared apartment anymore. He was 32 now. He owned a small repair and maintenance company, 5 employees, a used van, and a client list that was slowly, stubbornly growing. It wasn't glamorous, but it was his. He had built it with his hands, his accounting degree, and the particular stubbornness of a man who had learned early that survival wasn't optional. He was here today because someone had referred him for a commercial maintenance contract with a company called Brooks & Lane, a fast-growing business consulting firm that had taken over the 14th floor of one of the downtown towers. He stepped into the lobby in his best shirt, pressed, clean, with a portfolio under his arm. The elevator doors opened. He stepped in. A woman stepped in just before the doors closed. She was in a fitted black blazer, heels, hair pulled back clean. She was on her phone, typing fast, completely focused. She smelled like something expensive and looked like someone who made other people's problems disappear for a living. Ethan looked at her face. He stopped breathing for a second. She hadn't looked up yet. No, he thought. Can't be. The elevator began to rise. "Lena," he said. She looked up, her eyes still sharp. Still that particular shade of focused intensity landed on his face. The phone lowered slowly. Something moved across her expression recognition, then composure slamming down over it like a shutter. "Ethan," she said. Not a question. She already knew. He stared. "You," he shook his head. "What, how?" "I work here," she said simply. "I run this company." The elevator chimed. 14th floor. The doors opened. Neither of them moved. "You're the maintenance contractor," she said. "You're Brooks." He almost laughed. Not from humor, but from the sheer enormity of it. "Brooks and Lane. That's you." "It's me." A long beat. "How long have you been in this building?" he asked. She held his gaze. 3 years. "And you never—" "No," she said quietly. "Why?" She stepped out of the elevator and turned to face him. "Because you weren't ready yet. And neither was I." She paused. "But I think we both are now." She led him to a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows. He stood there, portfolio in hand, looking out at the city below, the same city where he had once eaten half a sandwich on a cold bench and felt like he was inside someone else's life. Lena sat at her desk and folded her hands. "Sit down, Ethan." He sat. "I want to be straight with you," she said, "before we talk about any contract." "Okay." She opened a desk drawer and placed something on the table between them. A folded piece of paper. Old, worn at the creases, like it had been opened and closed hundreds of times. His handwriting. "You are stronger than this feels. So am I. Don't let this place be where our story ends." His throat tightened. "I carried that note for 4 years," Lena said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were flat on the desk, controlled. "I read it the night I packed my one bag and left that room. I read it when I got a cleaning job uptown. I read it when I enrolled in night classes. I read it when the business almost failed twice." She paused. "I read it on the night I signed my first major client." Ethan said nothing. His eyes were stinging and he refused to acknowledge that. "I looked for you," she continued. "When I got stable enough to look, I found your company. I've been routing small referrals your way for 2 years." Ethan went very still. "The Henderson property," she said. "The Marlowe building maintenance. The Okafor office complex." His mouth opened slightly. Those 3 contracts had kept his company alive through a brutal first year. "That was you," he said. "Not a question. Indirect. Through people I knew." She met his eyes. "I didn't want to just give you money, Ethan. You would have refused it. You know you would have." He exhaled. "You had no right." "You're right," she said immediately. "I didn't. And I'm sorry. But I had to do something with what you gave me." Her voice cracked just once, just briefly. "You fed me when I was invisible. You didn't make me feel like a charity case. You made me feel like a person. And I wasn't going to just—" She stopped, looked at the window. "I wasn't going to just become successful and forget you were out there still fighting." The room was quiet. Ethan looked at the note on the table. "Why now?" he asked. "Why tell me now?" "Because this contract I'm offering you, it's real. It's big. And I need you to take it knowing the full truth." She leaned forward slightly. "Not because I owe you, because you've earned it. And I need you to believe that." He looked at her for a long time. "I don't know how to feel about this," he admitted. "I know," she said. "Take your time." He took 3 days. He didn't call. He didn't text. He drove to his mother's house and sat in her small kitchen while she made tea, and he told her everything: the bench, the girl, the note, the years, the contracts he hadn't known were connected. His mother listened without interrupting. When he finished, she put her cup down. "So what are you confused about?" she asked. "She went behind my back, Mom." "She watched your back," his mother said. "There's a difference." She tilted her head. "The way you described her, does it sound like she was trying to control you? Or trying to make sure you didn't fall?" He was quiet. "You always needed someone to believe in you quietly," his mother said. "Not loudly, not with conditions, just quietly." She reached across and touched his hand. Sounds like she did that. He drove back to the city. He signed the contract. The public event was Lena's idea, a community business spotlight hosted by Brooks and Lane, honoring local entrepreneurs who had built something from nothing. She put Ethan's company on the list. He stood at the podium in the event hall in front of 60 people and talked about his business, about building something slow and steady, about the years before stability without oversharing, without self-pity, just truth. Lena sat in the front row. She didn't take the mic. She didn't make the moment about herself. After it was over, she found him near the exit. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "I know." She smiled, a real one, the first one he had ever seen from her. Changed her whole face. "I wanted to." They stood there for a moment, two people who had met in the dark and somehow both found their way to light. "Thank you," he said, "for the note, for the referrals, for all of it." She shook her head slowly. "Thank you for the bread." 2 weeks later, Ethan was eating lunch on a bench near the college campus, a new bench, a warmer one, in the afternoon sun. A young man sat nearby, backpack worn, shoulders tight, staring at his phone with the expression of someone calculating how far nothing can stretch. Ethan looked down at his lunch bag. He had packed too much today, out of habit, out of something he couldn't quite name. He reached into the bag and pulled out the extra container. "Hey," he said. The young man looked up. "I bought too much," Ethan said. "You'd be doing me a favor." The young man stared at him, guarded, tired, proud, just like she had been. Ethan held it out and waited. And across the street from the window of a coffee shop, Lena watched, coffee in hand, smiling at something that had no ending. And that is where the story of half a meal ends, but the cycle it started, that never will. If the story moved you, please hit the like button right now. It helps more people find stories like this one. Subscribe so you never miss what we drop next. And drop a comment below. What line in the story hit you the hardest?